Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show dedicated to slicing through the noise. And this time, that's literally what we're doing.
It really is.
For decades, when cities talked about sound, it was always one thing: noise, traffic noise, construction noise. How do we get rid of it?
That's right. Acoustic research was, all about the objective numbers, the decibels, but the soundscape movement,
Mm.
it just flips that script entirely.
It's a total paradigm shift.
It is. It's not just about loudness anymore. It's about understanding the complex, sort of subjective relationship people have with their entire acoustic world. The good sounds, the bad sound, all of it.
And that's exactly the deep dive we're on today. We're going past the physical sound waves to look at the really fascinating variable, which is you, the individual. We want to know what personal trait shapes how you feel about, say, a busy street versus a quiet park.
Our mission today is to dig into this one study. They had 60 people evaluate 10 different urban soundscapes in Tianjin. And we're comparing two key factors: noise sensitivity, that's the classic one, and a much broader concept called environmental sensitivity, or ES.
The big question being, which one is the better predictor? Which one really tells us how you're going to feel about a place?
Exactly. What predicts pleasantness, appropriateness, the whole experience.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So first, we really need to nail down the difference between these two traits, NS and ES.
Yeah.
Because, that's the whole point of the study.
Right.
Noise sensitivity, or NS, is a very stable, specific trait. It's almost entirely focused on how you react to negative sounds.
So if you have high NS, you're the person who gets really stressed out by a ticking clock or a distant car alarm.
Precisely. It's what we've always used to predict who's going to complain about the new airport runway. It's about annoyance.
A defensive trait, basically.
Yes. Now, environmental sensitivity, ES, that's a whole different category. It's a much more fundamental trait. It's about how deeply an individual processes all sensory information.
All of it. So sights, smells.
All of it. And crucially, that includes both the negative and the positive stimuli. It's not just about avoiding annoyance. It's about the depth of processing across the board.
That already sounds way more relevant for a complex soundscape,
Yeah.
A place that has traffic, sure, but maybe also birds and people talking.
Exactly. So to test this, the researchers set up a really careful experiment. They wanted what's called ecological validity.
Making it feel real.
Right. They got 60 young adults and had them watch and listen to these meticulously recorded scenes from 10 real urban spots in Tianjin.
So everything from busy commercial streets to quiet little parks.
And they captured it all with high-res video and 4-channel surround sound. Then they played these 3-minute clips back in a controlled room, a semi-anechoic chamber.
And they made sure the volume was exactly the same as it was on site, right? So a loud street was actually loud in the experiment.
Critically important, yes. That control meant every participant got the exact same stimulus. No variables. Then, to measure the personal traits, they used standard tools: the Weinstein Noise Sensitivity Scale for NS and the Highly Sensitive Person Scale for ES.
Okay, so they gather all this data, and then comes the first big surprise.
A huge one. It goes against decades of noise research, they found. Well, they found no significant differences at all between the high noise sensitivity and low noise sensitivity group.
Wait, hold on. So the go-to tool for measuring how much noise bothers you, it had zero predictive power here. None.
Zero significant impact. Not on pleasantness, not on appropriateness, nothing. The variable everyone has relied on for years. It just failed in this context.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Why? Why did the classic tool fall flat? This seems to overturn everything we thought we knew.
Well, it really confirms a growing suspicion in the soundscape field. You see, all that older research that linked high NS to annoyance, it usually focused on purely negative environments.
Like just the sound of a highway. Or a factory.
Exactly. Monotonous, annoying sounds.
Yeah.
But soundscape research, by its very nature, looks at mixed environments. Places that have good things, like parks with birds and water sounds.
Ah, so the noise sensitivity scale is like a detector that's only programmed to find the bad stuff. It's just completely blind to the presence of anything good.
That is the key insight. It's too narrow. It can only measure your reaction to negative input, so when you introduce positive sounds into the mix, it loses its effectiveness. It can't see the whole picture.
So NS is a dead end here. That must mean environmental sensitivity, the broader trait, is where the answers are.
It is. Now, the full overall ES score was interesting. It only had a significant effect on one single measure: how appropriate people felt the soundscape was for that location.
Okay, so a step in the right direction, but not the whole story.
Not the whole story.
Okay.
The real gold mine was when they broke ES down into its subscales. This is where you see these two powerful, almost opposing forces emerge.
Right, because ES isn't just one thing.
Not at all. The study looked at a few subscales, but two were absolutely crucial: aesthetic sensitivity, or AES, and physical sensitivity, or PHS.
Let's take aesthetic sensitivity first, AES. I'm thinking of this as like the amplifier for positive experiences.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
People high in AES are just wired to process positive things more deeply, and the study found they actually perceived the natural sounds as more dominant in the scenes.
So they were actively tuning in to the good stuff, the birds, the wind.
It seems so. And the emotional payoff was huge. The high AES group scored significantly higher on both soundscape pleasantness and overall impressions.
So for them, a nice park isn't just pleasant, it's a deeply, profoundly positive experience.
It's amplified. Because they're processing that positive input more intensely, it really connects to other research showing high AES folks tend to have higher subjective well-being. They're better at tapping into environmental joy.
Okay, so that's the amplifier for the good. Now let's talk about the flip side. Physical sensitivity, PHS. The amplifier for discomfort.
Absolutely, the amplifier for discomfort. And the data was just as clear, but in the opposite direction.
What did it show?
The high PHS groups rated the soundscapes as significantly lower on pleasantness and overall impressions, consistently. They were the least happy with what they heard.
But what I found really staggering was that it wasn't just their opinion that changed, it was their actual physical perception of the sound.
You hit the nail on the head. This is the crucial part. PHS had a significant effect on perceived loudness. The high PHS group literally perceived the exact same sound as being louder than the low PHS group did.
Even though the decibels were identical for everyone.
Identical. So it's not just that they dislike noise more. Their brain is actually turning up the volume dial. They are physically experiencing a more intense and therefore more uncomfortable world.
That is incredible. It's like two people standing in the same spot living in fundamentally different sensory realities.
Precisely. And high PHS is linked to things like stress and anxiety, so it makes sense. Their nervous system is just more reactive to these sharp negative stimuli.
Okay, so ES is clearly the predictor we need. But it's not just about the person, is it? The researchers found it also depends on the place.
Right. This brings us to the interaction effect. Your sensitivity doesn't exist in a vacuum. The study found a really significant interaction between a person's ES level and the type of sight they were experiencing.
So the trait acts like a magnifying glass, basically. It just intensifies whatever is already there, good or bad.
That's it, exactly. When you look at the natural high pleasantness sites, the parks, the people with higher ES rated them as significantly more pleasant. They got a bigger boost from the good environment.
But in the built-up, noisy places like the commercial streets?
The pattern just brutally reverses. In those low pleasantness areas, the high ES individuals rated them as significantly less pleasant and had much lower overall impressions.
So if you're a highly sensitive person, there's no middle ground. A good place is amazing and a bad place is just awful.
You're destined for either profound enjoyment or acute displeasure. That's what the data suggests. The quality of the sensory input, natural and positive versus mechanical and negative, becomes everything.
This has to have massive implications for urban planning.
It's a complete rethink of how we should design public spaces.
So let's pivot to that. How can a city planner or an architect actually use this? How do you design for all these different types of people?
The big shift is toward personalized soundscape design. We have to ditch the one-size-fits-all model of just reducing noise. We now know we need to create different types of experiences for different sensitivities.
Okay, give me an example. How would you design a space for that high aesthetic sensitivity group, the AES people?
For them, you want to intentionally amplify the good stuff. You curate positive sounds. You might install a water feature not just for looks, but for its specific, pleasant acoustic properties. Or you plant trees known to attract birds with melodic calls.
You could even create like little acoustic sanctuaries within a larger park.
Exactly. Secluded niches for quiet activities where the positive natural sounds are all you hear. The high AES people are wired to get a huge benefit from that, so we should provide it.
Okay, so you make their experience sublime. But what about the high physical sensitivity group, the PHS individuals? The ones who find everything louder and more annoying?
For them, the goal is mitigation. It's all about buffering the noise of the city. Since their perception of volume is literally amplified, you need strong physical solutions.
So more sound walls, dense plantings.
Earthen berms, physical barriers, anything to reduce the raw impact of traffic and construction. And you could also use sound masking.
Like white noise.
Something like that, yes. Introducing a steady, low-level, pleasant sound to mask the sharp, unpredictable noises like sirens or horns. It just gives their nervous system fewer jolts to deal with.
And this must apply to indoor spaces too, like in therapy or office settings.
Oh, absolutely. Think about mental health. For a high PHS person, a psychotherapy session must be in a quiet room. The quietness itself is part of the therapy. It reduces their baseline physiological stress.
Whereas for the high AES person, you could actually use the environment as a tool.
Precisely. For them, a guided walk in a natural soundscape or exposure to a curated peaceful scene could be a profoundly effective way to reduce stress, much more so than for a low sensitivity person.
So to wrap up the core findings here, the old metric, noise sensitivity, it was basically useless for evaluating real-world urban spaces.
Useless. But environmental sensitivity was the key, especially at subscales. Aesthetic sensitivity amplifying the good, and physical sensitivity amplifying the bad, including the perception of loudness itself.
And it all depends on the context. Your sensitivity makes a great park heavenly and a noisy street hellish. We have to design for that diversity.
We really do.
Which brings me back to one final point about the study's design. To keep things consistent, they used the exact same video recording for every participant. They controlled the visuals.
Yes, which is standard practice. But we know from other research that what you see dramatically changes what you hear.
The two senses are completely intertwined.
They are.
So here's the thought I want to leave with you. We've just seen how profoundly environmental sensitivity changes auditory perception. Some people are hyper-attuned to positive sounds, others to negative ones. So what other differences might we find if we also let the visuals vary? If a high AES person who loves beautiful sounds also sees a pristine, beautifully maintained park, does that amplify their positive auditory rating even more? Or is the sensitivity purely in one sense? That's something to think about the next time you're in a place that feels just a little too loud, or maybe profoundly peaceful.